It happens to thousands of people. According to Spanish law, even if the bank keeps your house because you can't afford it anymore, if it has lost much of its value, you still owe the bank the rest of the outstanding debt.
We feel that it is totally incomprehensible that they don't accept this popular legislative initiative.
Banks supposedly finance the political parties, and so they are the ones that set the laws whether the process is admissible or not.
In the end, you're going to fall. The first things you're going to sweep up are you and us. We're going to fall together. You're part of this country, too.
This is not a merger, but a plan to break up the company in favor of British Airways, leading to the end of Iberia.
They decided that Iberia is bankrupt, and this is nothing more than a plan to divide up the company, separate the company, and get rid of all the jobs.
We are convinced that there are other procedures. In fact, we've put them on the table, but what's happening is that IAG, in its infinite greed, is disregarding them.
The Thelen campout has lasted 102 days in total uncertainty in terms of the popular legislative initiative that aims at modifying the mortgage law. More than 100 days and an assessment.
During this time, we've achieved 50% of what we've presented because we've presented an average of 65 requests for foreclosures to annual mortgage loans, subsidized housing, suspensions of evictions, and cancellations of debt. Let's say 50% overall, meaning about 15 subsidized rentals that have been granted, but no cancellations of debt transfer payments. There are about 25 or 30 requests for debt cancellations.
Now their hopes are placed in that the popular legislative initiative is successful. The previous steps made by the government, such as the application of the Good Practices Code in March or the decree on evictions in November, have not been enough.
They're measures that they don't want to deal with the real problem. There's a very specific proposal by the civil society with more than 1 million signatures that's already in Congress. And these are the emergency measures. These are the minimums.
The already traditional demands by the platforms of those affected by mortgages, reflected in the popular legislative initiative, are, as they describe them, minimal demands. The urgent immediate moratorium of all the regular home evictions and good faith debtors, the retroactive debt payment transfer. The measures taken cannot only be for the future. Banks turn homes into low-income rental buildings.
We feel that it is totally incomprehensible that you don't accept this popular legislative process. Of course, the only thing it would do would be to deepen even more the legitimacy abyss that right now is stopping institutions like the Congress of the Citizens as group overall. Put yourself in the shoes of the people who are suffering all this and really check your conscience and think if they can vote against these minimal measures. Those representatives who don't commit starting now to defend these minimal measures that this commission is processing, or when the commission discusses the popular legislative initiative next Tuesday, you will have to see how the population will start pointing you out publicly and wherever you go.
Today at daybreak, the police broke up the Thelen campout after resisting for 108 days. It's become a symbol in the fight for those affected by mortgages. Many feel that Aracalao's words were an effective hit in Congress.
Cowards! You don't fight fair!
Thieves! This national shame is in plain sight.
At 4 in the morning, the police came and said that the campout was over. They didn't accept the documents that we gave them. Well, we had to leave. I'm outraged because for having spent 108 days, well, I'm outraged since we didn't achieve anything.
Here, they had achieved a large part of the 180,000 signatures collected in Madrid. Over time, it became a meeting point for many social movements.
There, in front of you, are the criminals. This was a milestone. It's a milestone because we had the support of the citizens. It was a reference for the preferential class, healthcare, the Complutense. This is now a reference point, and that's not good for them, and they don't like it.
Here, when it was raining or cold or it was windy, they resisted because all they were asking for were their rights. I think that is clear. This is a retaliation for the other day.
This was a symbol for everyone. We're all here. In my case, I cried. I was desperate, and I came here and became stronger. When I found out this morning, I cried. But I'm going to stay here. They're not going to make me leave because I'm going to fight. No, we're not going to be quiet. We're going to stay to the end.
Iberia Airlines is experiencing difficult times. Today, it is facing one of the hardest labor adjustments in the history of Spain by considering the dismissal of nearly 4,000 employees. The company was established in 1927. Its first crisis began in the 90s. At the end of that decade, it was no longer a public enterprise and became a private one.
We're going to have to make a major effort, and we're willing, since we already did in '94. But we're willing to make an effort if they guarantee the future of the company. What we don't want is to work more for less, so we can work for a few more years and that's it.
In 2009, the company merged with British Airways as part of the business holding IAG. The process was sold as something positive for the company and would not intervene directly in the company operations.
What they're planning is to make Iberia a small company with long-distance flights, taking away all the high-yield flights, the high-income flights, and flying them through London, and leaving us with all due respect, the sandal flights, the tourist flights, the cheap flights.
At the end of 2012, the company announced that it was cutting 4,500 jobs, and the protests were immediate.
On the table, they're saying that Iberia is breaking up, and we will always fight for a united Iberia. And Iberia united for business, Iberia united for the employees.
Starting with the decision of the shareholders, they decided that Iberia is bankrupt, and this is nothing more than a plan to divide up the company, segregate the company, and get rid of all the jobs.
We just want to keep our jobs, continue doing our flights, for them not to take away Terminal 4 and to continue operating here in Madrid as always, not take away our flights to Latin America, which is what we've always been doing.
Now the government's role is essential because Iberia is the last large Spanish aviation company.
I think the least they can do is reflect on where it is we're going to. Because it's not just 4,500 families there. There are many we attend to.
This is the third layoff regulation plan that the company has faced. In the previous two, they lost a total of 6,000 jobs.
Finally, the time has come that they've been waiting months for. The delivery of the last signatures for the popular legislative initiative. They've been collecting signatures since April 23, 2012.
No son suicidios, son asesinatos. No son suicidios, son asesinatos.
The decision is now on the table of Congress and in the hands of the parliamentary groups. The number is indisputable. 1,428,540 signatures, almost 1 million more than required. And as a popular measure to put the pressure on, an announcement that as of now, social action will continue to grow.
We'll be warning our stately representatives that they're going to have to make a decision in Congress in view of the popular legislative initiative. Whoever votes against this popular legislative initiative will be to blame for evicting and throwing to the side of the road hundreds of thousands of people.
Starting February 16th, these state strikes were going to make every representative who has not committed to vote in favor of these demands can't move without being punished, where they live or work.
2 weeks have gone by, and today they will finally debate whether the popular legislative initiative will be processed. Hundreds of people stand in front of Congress. The Popular Party has announced that it will vote against processing the initiative.
Banks supposedly finance the political parties, and they're the ones that set the laws whether the process is admissible or not. So why did they let us collect so many signatures and make such an effort on the freezing streets, while everyone has set their obligations aside to collect these signatures, because just collecting them gave us hope, believing that they were going to let the initiative be processed?
I would like the government to listen, because supposedly for a law to be processed in Congress, 100,000 signatures have to be collected, and we have 1,600,000, and we think they're not going to pay attention to us. But it's a question of time. People are realizing that the politicians don't listen to us, and people are becoming more outraged.
Behind the chamber doors, the debate has begun. Some parliamentary minority group representatives try to make the popular faction reflect.
Who are we, the representatives of this parliament, standing by today? Who do we want to serve today? Money, banks, or the people? Those who never lose? Those who are determined to get paid every last euro, even while condemning thousands of families to social exclusion? Or the more than 400,000 families who've lost their homes?
Meanwhile, outside, the protest continues and is growing. Identifications start to be taken.
Social injustice! That's where they are!
In the end, you're going to fall. The first things you're going to sweep up are you and us. We're going to fall together, and there's going to be blood in the country because you don't do what you have to do. You have to go and arrest those bastards. They're stealing from us. You swore to defend the laws, and so why don't you arrest a thief?
And suddenly, against the prognosis, a news report ignites all hope.
It's going to be processed! It's going to be processed!
The Popular Party just announced that it has changed its decision and is going to vote in favor of processing the popular legislative initiative.
Present, 334. In favor, 334. One abstention. It's approved.
A success achieved thanks to the social pressure and the joint fight, but one bathed in pain. The sad news of a retired couple who committed suicide in Mallorca when receiving the eviction notice was the trigger that made the Popular Party change its opinion.
The results have come, and the time has come for people to be sensitive to our situation and reality, because this is not charity. It's the solution for most of the population.
It's a victory! It's the victory!
On February 16th, the citizens will hit the streets throughout Spain with more hope than ever, but with one objective: that their demands turn into laws.
The unstable situation that the Iberia employees are dealing with has resulted in all the unions coming together, including pilots, flight crew members, and land personnel, to fight against the dismissals.
Unity in the approaches for a radical opposition against the attempts of the IAG management of breaking down Iberia and turning it into a very small company. strip down a historical network company.
The plan imposed by IAG and its CEO, Willie Walsh, is a strategy that has caused many hypotheses about the company's future.
What they are aiming for is maximizing profits at any cost, at the cost of workers' rights, at the cost of connectivity, in this case of Spain with Latin America and the rest of the world. We are convinced that there are other procedures. In fact, we've laid them on the table, but what's happening is that IAG, in its infinite greed, is disregarding them. They've disregarded them. We presented a bold proposal including 10% salary reductions, a 3-year salary freeze. What we've offered Iberia management is quantified. It's close to a 47% salary savings from now through 2017. And they rejected all of this. Of course there are other ways of doing things. Of course there are.
The process opened between Iberia employees and management to reach an agreement was going fairly well until the end of 2012. But suddenly management changed its mind, instigated possibly by IAG.
Legally, the IAG executives don't have the capacity, we don't recognize it, to come to Madrid and negotiate with us. We want to negotiate with our regular intermediaries, which are Iberia management. But what we want is what we negotiate with them to be respected by IAG. So we're not waiting for Willie Walsh in Madrid. We don't want him there.
The employees know that the future is at risk for many families. That's why they are willing to talk, take all the roads necessary before a massive dismissal process takes place.
We have to be optimistic. We have to fight for an agreement. We can't allow ourselves the luxury of not reaching an agreement. The other day we conveyed this to the Minister of Public Works very clearly. This country can't allow not reaching an agreement with Iberia, nor can the employees, the management, nor even the tourism sector or the government. We can't imagine a scenario without an agreement. It would be a failure for everyone.
My unemployment is running out. I only have 11 days left, and I'm taking the subsidy because I have a daughter. My wife's prepare plan ends, and we don't know what will happen to us. I hope they don't throw us out. All my belongings are there. Everything I have. Everything.
You have a daughter?
I have an 8-year-old daughter.
This is the reason for the protest today, to fight so that cases like Carlos's stop taking place. Hundreds of them take place in Spain every day.
Throwing people out on the street? But what is that? And then the apartments are locked up and the bank doesn't pay? Evict the bank. Evict the bank too. Why do they have the apartments locked up?
Point 21, 20 here. Go back to the median.
Come on.
Cut off this area, up and down. Spread out, spread out. Come on.
The objective of the Popular Legislative Initiative is to modify the mortgage law. Although the PP has allowed it to go to process, the people have hit the streets. They don't trust them.
They were willing to vote against the proposal. They changed their mind on account of the pressure in the streets from the evicted and even the last death that coincided with the day of the vote.
It's a criminal government that has allowed for a series of things that later they will knock down because they had no other choice but to accept it. And how many evicted have died? Up to December, how many evicted have died?
Most of the protesters have the feeling that the PP, with a majority vote in the parliament, modified the basic proposals of a popular legislative initiative that had collected almost 1.5 million signatures.
They'll make a pseudo-law, a decaffeinated law, that they'll sell saying it reflects the people's feelings.
They'll do whatever they want, but we are not going to give up even a comma of our proposal.
That's what the politicians are here for, to listen to the citizens. They have to admit it to processing, but not only to processing so later they can turn it down, but listen to what is being said.
The people's discontent with the political class is so obvious that no politician is welcomed.
The constitutional reform, the labor reform, the pension reform, accelerated evictions, the Bologna plan, all this is what the Socialist Party did, what they call the Socialist Party.
Juan Fernando López de Aguilar, former Minister of Justice with the Socialist Party, and Beatriz Talegón, General Secretary of International General Union of Young Socialists, join the protest but are booed and have to leave the demonstration escorted by the police. The demonstration ends in the Plaza del Sol. Here everyone shares the same determination.
We have to achieve bigger objectives every day, achieve a better society, and manage to continue evolving.
Immediate halt of evictions, retroactive payment transfer, creation of low-income housing. The people are on the streets again today in more than 50 cities in Spain to tell the government that these are the minimal demands. The law is going to be processed, but the citizens are not going to stop fighting until it becomes law in reality.
Today the battle begins between Iberia and its employees outside the offices. It's the first day of the strike, but not the only one. For 15 days, 40% of the flights will not operate. But this strike doesn't only affect Iberia. Other companies need Iberia's land services and have also suspended other flights. According to the unions, 4,000 employees have joined the strike. They all walk the 10K that separate Iberia's industrial zone and Terminal 4. A march to denounce Iberia's intention to dismiss 20% of its personnel.
This is not a merger, but a plan to break up the company in favor of British Airways, leading to the end of Iberia, the end of Iberia that we know.
We have to bend these people's arms, let the government intervene or whoever has to intervene, because this is a brutal aggression against the workers.
Several kilometers away, inside Terminal 4, travelers are feeling the effects of the strike. Many people's flights have been cancelled.
Both sides lose, it's obvious, and the weak will lose more, and that's the worker.
The company has to manage this. The workers, it's a worker's right to strike.
We're back with the workers as they walk these kilometers with energy and the will to fight.
We'll work and we'll fight, but we're not going to let them break Iberia down. I've worked for Iberia for 33 years, and my father worked here 28 years, and we won't allow it.
This energy grows when they reach their destination, Terminal 4. There, part of the airport personnel welcomes them with applause and shouts of support. Thousands of people are protesting during this strike. They want to enter the terminal, the place where they work, but the police cut them off. The tension grows, their energy increases. The shouts and shoves. The police can't handle them and have to give in to the force of the workers. The first charges take place. The next step, enter Terminal 4. A wave of workers breaks through the entrance, and as they shout, they run through the terminal. They reach the control gates where the civil guard riot police are waiting for them. The Iberia workers decide to protest pacifically and sit down. The National Police doesn't take long to drag them out of there. But the workers don't leave. 3,807 colleagues might be dismissed. At 3 in the afternoon, they decide to leave. There are more strikes to come. 2 days later, they gather in front of the airline's headquarters in Madrid. Once again, thousands of workers hit the streets. Firecrackers, chants. All this for their jobs, all this for employment. Today the police doesn't intervene. But this battle has just begun. There are many days left and only one objective: defend their future and the future of their families.